For this project, I thought originally that I would research the immigration from Mexico to the United States. Being from California, immigration from Mexico has been a topic of conversation for as long as I've been alive. But as this class progressed, I found that I was more and more interested in how our country became such a melting pot of cultures, and where all the different nationalities migration originated. I am partially of Irish descent, and from what I gather from relatives, my forefathers came to America during the Irish potato famine in the mid-1880s. The reason for me not to research further into why my family is in the United States is that throughout my years in school, I've researched the potato famine many times and thought that I should get to know other periods of immigration in our country's history. The process of elimination brought me to immigration to America after the Second World War. World War II had such impact on humanity that there's no lack of sources as well as meaningful information that I could draw from. It was also the first instance in which the well-being of a people fleeing the persecution of a foreign regime needed the help and shelter of the United States. Throughout this course, we have seen that immigration is a touchy subject in America. The so-called nativists had the idea that newcomers, for whatever reason, were coming to America to take what rightfully belonged to them, although the families of the nativists had only been in this country for a short period of time in the grand scheme of things. The negativity towards immigrants does not come as a surprise to me. My family has always been and had a hardened vision to the needs of the American immigrant. It is not that my parents are racist, but they believe that this country has to function properly must be run with a controlled immigration system. Growing up in an environment such as this, one would tend to follow suit and be hard-nosed to any immigration at all. I could say honestly that in the past I have shared in the negativity toward immigration. But as this class progressed, I began to thaw on certain ideas of the necessity for the people to immigrate. With all the negativity about immigrants in our country, I have found that the need for refuge from the Second World War by millions has been one of the most accepted and understood immigrations to our country in modern times. Throughout my research, I found that relief to the persecuted peoples in Europe was not granted instantly, but in fact it took congressional intervention to give these people the ability to migrate into our country. Many of the refugees from the Holocaust and World War II would have to enter the United States by way of Canada. Not until 1948 did Congress pass the Displaced Persons Act. I chose to utilize the Displaced Persons Act as one of my primary sources since it is what opened the door for immigration during this era. In 1948, the Displaced Persons Act was set into place to assist in the help of people from Europe. Victimized by a Nazi government, the act authorized for those limited period of time the acceptance of refugees into the United States. These individuals and families could not return to their native lands in fear of religious and racial persecution of the Second World War and the Nazi regime. Many of the immigrants were of Jewish descent from countries such as Germany, Austria, Italy, the French sector of Berlin and Vienna, as well as parts of Czechoslovakia. This started an influx of European immigration into America during the post-World War II period. For my other sources, I utilized the accounts of actual immigrants from Europe during the time. I chose to use the accounts of a Holocaust survivor that managed to immigrate to America and posted her topics to a website of the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum. The Memorial Museum gives the reader of their webpage as well as visitors to their facility the opportunity to absorb the true accounts of those that were involved in the Holocaust in Europe. This autobiographical account, told by a Holocaust survivor, Maina Friedman, who survived the war in Europe and was eventually relocated to the United States through post-World War II immigration. Maina now works for the United States Holocaust Museum, continuing to educate the world about her trials and reasons for immigration in the United States during World War II and after. The search for accounts of Holocaust survivors in the United States is not far and few between. I chose to use a childhood account of an escapee from Germany during the Second World War, and what it took her family to escape such horrible conditions. Jeannie Burke saw terrible things done to neighbors as well as her family. Though she does not harbor any hatred towards German people, it is a true account of that one can have new beginnings just as her family did in America. I was also able to utilize a source that is close to me. My mother-in-law migrated to the United States after World War II. She came from Holland with her family. Though Holland remained neutral during the war, the devastation and infiltration of the German army took its toll on the nation. Her family had to leave the country due to the lack of opportunities after the war. I find that after all my studying and research into this topic that immigration has its purposes, and we need to look at what our country needs as well as what the need of those in need is. Thank you.